Guys, I am very concerned about the future of college football just with this ridiculous conference imbalance. When you look at the conference realignment with Texas and Oklahoma now joining the SEC, we already know the SEC was the best conference in college football, but just like in one of my previous videos, there were still really bad teams. You take a look at Georgia's in-conference schedule this year, it's really bad. Schedules like that won't be happening anymore. Every team's schedule in the SEC will be very tough once Texas and Oklahoma join. And we already know about ESPN's SEC bias. They're partnered with the SEC. There's so many games, so many big-time SEC games on ESPN networks, things like that. They have the SEC network, through ESPN. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Oklahoma and Texas, two huge money college football programs joining that conference. The Big Ten is just going to be completely left behind. And, you can say what you want. The Big Ten has been unquestionably, since the college football playoff era, since the college football playoff started in 2014, unquestionably, it's been the second best conference in college football. Now, last year, Penn State was down, Michigan was down, but you take a look at the total resume. The Big Ten by far has been the second best conference in college football. But now the Big Ten's gotten completely lapped, and the imbalance in power we're going to be seeing. It's going to be so interesting to see with recruiting when it comes to a team like Ohio State recruiting against some of these SEC teams. I'm guessing all of these SEC teams are going to be telling these kids, the big-time recruits, listen, this is the premier conference. This is the conference to play in. If you want to go to the NFL, this is the conference. And the Big Ten's sitting there, and it's like, our two options are, let's go add two mediocre Big 12 teams, or let's try and form, a league with the Pac-12 and do a little merge. It's just, neither of those options are all that feasible, especially the Pac-12 option. The whole thing with the Big 12, I don't know which teams we could get. The talk has been Kansas and Iowa State. That certainly wouldn't move the needle. I mean, you're talking about the SEC, which is already better than the Big Ten, adding Texas and Oklahoma, and the Big Ten's adding Iowa State and Kansas. Terrible for the Big Ten. Absolutely terrible. So I am very concerned. The ESPN SEC bias is only going to get worse, and apparently the Big 12 has accused ESPN of conspiring with the SEC and the American to lure teams away from the conference. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. Obviously, we know ESPN is trying to make the SEC as powerful as can be. Look at this crazy stat. There have been 85 AP national champions. The proposed SEC has 34 of those. That's 40% of national championships all time if Oklahoma and Texas go to the SEC. This is a super conference. It's not good for college football. And unless the Big Ten can kind of merge with the Pac-12 and create this mega conference between the two coasts, you bring in a team like USC, they get good again, Oregon, then you've got Ohio State, you've got Penn State, you've got Michigan. That's a real powerful conference. I like the idea of that, but it's just not realistic at all. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just make one huge conference if you're really going to be talking about, the regions. Logistically, I've said this before, logistically it doesn't make sense. But there's major concern right now for college football. Just a few other things I wanted to share that I saw and found interesting. College football categories, I actually agree with a lot of this. Utah, I love. They were one of my underrated teams. Same with Penn State. I'm not getting the Michigan love there. I don't understand that. I guess maybe with J.J. McCarthy, although he's a true freshman, could fall off. Definitely Indiana. I think Indiana's so overrated. Florida, with Emory Jones, we're going to have to see. New quarterback. Needs defense. Yes, they do. Sleeper, Iowa. I agree with that. Overhyped, Oregon. I don't know if I agree with that. They have a really good defense. Needs offense, Auburn. Auburn needs a lot of things. Let's just say that safest bet, Alabama. I mean, I would say the safest bet just based on their schedule is Clemson, honestly. I mean, Clemson has such an easy schedule, it's not even close. Take a look at this. I think this is a troll. This is 247 Sports' biggest trap games, and they've got Ohio State against Tulsa. Now, I mean, you could have, Ohio State faces decent teams to where there could be a trap game like week 1 at Minnesota right before Oregon week 2. That could be a trap game. But I don't understand how Tulsa at home, where we're going to be 37-point favorites, is a trap game. I'm not understanding that. And the same thing with Georgia versus Arkansas. versus Arkansas. Oh my goodness. I don't know what that is. This made me so irritated. Okay, now look at this. This is the Heisman odds, and it is really weird to see JT Daniels first, and I would not bet on JT Daniels at all for a number of reasons. But look at that font. I mean, you go through all the effort to make this nice little graphic, and then you ruin it with a completely unreadable font. That font is not. Who thought of that font would be a good idea? It literally, I got a headache looking at this thing for 15 minutes. But JT Daniels having the best odds. Number one, Georgia's schedule is terrible. Where's his Heisman moment? Week 1 against Clemson. That's their toughest game by far. They don't have it. Like, look at Georgia's schedule. I know it's the SEC. This is the other crazy thing with the SEC. Like, you're not going to see schedules like this, but the SEC East is really weak outside of Georgia. It's really weak. And Georgia's schedule is not good. And, I mean, Georgia is really not known as an offensive juggernaut. I don't see JT Daniels putting up huge numbers. I also think CJ Stroud and DJ Uiagalelei on Clemson, I think they're both hurt by the schedule. To me, you look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, maybe Bryce Young. The thing with Spencer Rattler that's interesting, Oklahoma recently had 2 Heisman winners. I don't know if the voters have Oklahoma fatigue, if they'd vote for another Oklahoma QB to win the Heisman. They just won it, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray won it back-to-back a few years ago. But, yeah, I mean, Rattler definitely, I mean, the thing is the Big 12 is actually pretty tough this year. We obviously, understand it's going to become very weak in the coming years once Texas and Oklahoma leave. But right now, it's pretty tough. So that's an interesting graph. I mean, I just cannot look at this font. Like, who thought that font was a good idea? You go through all that time to make the graphic, and then the font is unreadable. I mean, oh my goodness. I get a headache just from looking at it. But guys, the bottom line, I'm concerned. Can somebody help me? Can somebody reason with me? What is the path forward here for college football? We're literally just all slaves to a mega conference that is the new SEC. That's what it feels like. All the money's going to be going to the SEC. They're going to be getting all the top recruits. Ohio State will get their fair share of top recruits. Listen, Ohio State is one of the 3 best recruiting schools in college football. Let's be honest about that. But it's like, there's going to be so much money and so much focus dumped on the SEC, and all those SEC coaches. I mean, look at what happened with Texas A&M. They threw a hissy fit when Texas and Oklahoma, when it was materializing that Texas and Oklahoma were joining the SEC, because apparently saying we're in the SEC and Texas and Oklahoma are not is a recruiting advantage. Saying you're in the SEC, you're in the premier conference of college football, that's only going to get exaggerated now with the conference becoming stronger. It'll be interesting to see Ohio State try and recruit some of these Southern kids when they've got all these SEC people saying this is the only conference that matters. That's what they're going to say. The only conference that matters. They play Pee Wee football up north. That's what they're going to say. It's going to be really interesting how much power the SEC has. ESPN, we know they're a mouthpiece for the SEC. It's been that way for a while now. It only gets worse with the more money that gets poured into the SEC. These 2 mega programs, Oklahoma and Texas, joining the SEC. The balance of power right now, guys, these are the other 4 conferences. This is the SEC. It's like this. The SEC is on the right. The other 4, it's so one-sided. The SEC has so much power with Texas and Oklahoma joining the conference, and it really has me worried for the future of college football at this point. We know the 12-team playoff is coming. That's good news for the other conferences. They can at least get some teams in the playoff. We obviously need the 12-team playoff now with how good the SEC is. But again, guys, I'm looking at the Big Ten, and I'm not seeing a move to add any of these mediocre Big 12 teams that's really going to incentivize competing with the SEC. It may make the Big Ten weaker. You may add Kansas and Iowa State, and the Big Ten could become weaker. So we really don't know. I know everyone loves Iowa State, but I've said several times Iowa State is not going to be good once Matt Campbell leaves. And really, they lose everyone after this year anyways. So I really don't think they're going to be good that good after this year. Anyways, we will see what happens. Obviously, Kansas, with the angle, the whole college basketball, they're a blue blood. It's going to be good for college basketball with the Big Ten. But for football, they're one of the worst teams in the FBS. I mean, just be average. We need you to be average. We already have Rutgers. And I'm not hating on Rutgers. They're trending up. But it's like we already got some really bad teams in this conference. We don't need to add another terrible football team to the conference, but it looks like it could be happening. We're going to have to see what happens with the Big 12. It's all playing out right now. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.